Hello. Today we are going to look at order of operations. And before we start this worksheet, I'm going to go over the order of operations, which order we do the operations. So let's go ahead and start here. Order of operations. So what we do first is we always do parentheses first. And when we do parentheses, we go from inside out. So whatever are the most inside or inner parentheses, where we do those operations first, and then we move out from there. And you'll see, so these are our regular parentheses. Then we have what's called brackets, and then we have braces. And we use all these three and you could see all three of them in one problem, so that you're not lost with which, opening and closing belongs to which. It's easier to differentiate the ones when they look different, like the brackets, when you open with a bracket and you close with a bracket, what is actually inside the bracket, instead of using several sets of these parentheses. So that's why we've got, you might see all these three different ones. Next, second one, that after we've done everything that's inside the parentheses, we don't have any of them anymore, not brackets or braces either. We do exponents. After we are done with exponents, we go to multiplication and division. And now notice that it can be multiplication first and then division, or it can be division first and then multiplication. Either way, whichever comes first, we do first. So we do them left to right. And number 4 is going to be addition and subtraction. The same thing with them. We might have a subtraction first, and that's what we're going to do first. So both of these we do from left to right. And of course, basically the same thing with the exponents and parentheses. Everything goes from left to right. But these ones, you need to be careful that it's not, if you have a division first, you're going to do the division before you do the multiplication. You might have heard of something called PEMDAS, which is kind of a memory trick for this, but you do need to be careful with it. So PEMDAS meaning parentheses. So parentheses first. E as in exponents. M as in multiplication. D as in division. And now again, since we are writing them down, multiplication first, division first, you need to remember that whichever one of these comes first, we're going to do it. So if you have a division first, you're going to do that first. So these two are kind of bundled. Whichever comes, I can't even write, comes first. Same thing, A as in addition and as in subtraction. So these two, the same thing, whichever comes first. If you have a subtraction first, you're going to do that before the addition. So be careful with these two, just like I said here. It can be. But PEMDAS is kind of an, if you keep forgetting, this might help you memorize that you do parentheses first, then exponents, and then again multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction. Okay, let's move on to the worksheet. I'm going to use a separate piece of paper just so that I have enough room here. So I'm going to start with the first one, and we start with brackets. Braces, 54 divided by 9. We close the braces, squared minus 4 bracket closed times 3 plus 3. Okay, and I double check that everything here is correct. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go underneath this because it is easier for me to see my mistakes when I actually write it under instead of to the right. So, our first one is going to be the braces. Those are the innermost parentheses we have here. So we're going to keep our bracket. We're going to do 54 divided by 9, which is 6. The exponent goes on top of the 6, minus 4, close the bracket, times 3 plus 3. And it's easy for me to copy underneath here. Next, so we still have the brackets, which are our parentheses. So we're going to have to work on the getting rid of those brackets. But here we have an exponent inside. So of course we're going to do the exponent first because it's inside the brackets. So 6 squared, again, you are totally allowed to use a calculator. Make sure whichever calculator you're going to use on a test, you know how to use. So 6 and squared, this x squared, if I press that, it's equal. 6 squared is the same thing as 6 times 6, which is 36. So 36 minus 4, notice that I did not do this subtraction yet. I'm still keeping it because I don't want to make a mistake. I want to do this step by step. Well, 36 minus 4 is going to be 32 times 3 plus 3. Now, our next one is this multiplication here, 32 times 3. So let's take the calculator. We don't want to make mistakes. Trying to do all this in our head. 32 times 3 equals 96. Plus 3. So multiplication first and then addition. Now we're going to do that addition and we get 99 as our answer. Okay, next one. Number 2 has a lot more parentheses and brackets, and so they're basically what they're called is grouping symbols. So let's try to copy number 2 on a separate piece of paper so that we again have enough room here. So this is number 2. We have negative 11 minus negative 3 times brackets open negative 5 minus braces open parentheses open negative 5 parentheses closed cubed plus negative 3 inside parentheses, and then we're closing our braces and we're closing the bracket. Now, the reason why we have so many of these parentheses here is because we are dealing with negative numbers. So the negative numbers are always separated by parentheses so that we know that that negative belongs to that. And it's especially important right here, where so that the negative 5 is the base of that exponent 3. Now, what you need to remember when we have, for example, so we're going to start, before I explain that. So we're going to start with the braces that are the innermost grouping here. And if we look at inside here, we need to do that exponent first. So we have this here that we want to do the calculation first. So we're going to copy everything else like it is. Negative 11 minus negative 3 times bracket open negative 5 minus, and now we're coming to that negative 5 cubed. So what we're going to do, what am I doing here? Here we go. No, clear. So now this negative sign here is not the same as the minus sign. So the negative sign is over here, down underneath. So negative 5, and then this is only x squared. We need cubed. So we're going to press this one here and do to the power of 3 equals, and we get negative 125. Now, you need to be careful. This one actually is correct. But since we have the parentheses here, we need to put the negative 5 inside the parentheses so that it for sure takes the negative sign in front of the 5 when we do our exponent. So negative 5 to the power of 3, it still is negative 125. It would have been different if the exponent was an even exponent, when that's when the negative sign actually makes a difference. But right now, so our negative 5 cubed is negative 125. And then we have this plus minus sign here. So the way the signs go, if we have a plus and a plus, of course that's going to be a plus. We can't, I mean, a plus and a plus is going to be a plus. If we have a negative and a negative back to back, think of it as, here's our two negatives. What I can do when I have two negatives back to back, I can actually move this other one and make it into a plus sign. So two negatives back to back make it plus. Now, if I have a plus sign and a negative sign here, so I have a plus and a negative. I don't have a friend for this negative sign here, so this is going to end up being a negative because I can't make it into a plus sign. I would need another negative to make it into a plus sign. Same thing if I have a negative first and then a positive. So a minus and a plus. Again, I don't have a friend for this, so this is going to be a negative. So these are the rules for when we're looking at, for example, this one here where we have a plus and a minus. So a plus and a minus is going to end up being a minus. We need to simplify this before we do anything else. And hold on, so that's our braces, and then there's our bracket. The bracket's not. Okay, here we go. With the exponents and the negative signs, that works a little bit differently. So if you have an even exponent with a negative base, it's going to be a positive. Because again, you have an even number. So for example, 2 or 4, if we have two negative signs, we can make it into a plus sign. If we have an odd exponent, we're going to have that one left over, and that is why this becomes a negative. Okay, so now this is what we're still trying to figure out, these braces. So we're still copying this whole thing the same as we've done. I don't want to make any mistakes, so I'm not doing anything to those numbers. So I have our braces. So negative 125 minus 3 is going to be a negative 128. And then we have a brace here. So Next, what we're gonna do is get rid of these, not a brace, a bracket, these brackets. And now we again have two negatives here that we need to get rid of. But before we do that, we're gonna write the beginning still the same. We're not changing anything. We're gonna keep that -5. We don't necessarily need to keep it inside the parentheses anymore because it's going to be a -5 anyways. You can use the parentheses, but in this case we can drop it because there's not another sign between the brackets and the braces. You just have to be careful when you drop the parentheses. Now we have a negative and a negative, a negative and a negative. That makes a positive. So this is going to be a plus 128. And we are working this problem here. So we're still keeping these the same, -11 minus -3 times -5 plus 128. And again, if you're using the calculator, for that negative sign, you're going to use this, -5 plus 128. That is 123. Oops, 123. A positive. So there's a multiplication here. So we have -11 minus -3 times 123. Now, next what we want to do is this multiplication here. But before we can do that, we have to figure out, or actually, no. Yeah, we do have to, because this 3 has two back-to-back signs. We have to make that figure out just one sign before we do the multiplication. So we have -11, two negatives, again, make it into a +3 times 123. So 3 times 123 is 369. So this here is 369, and that is a plus. And then we have a -11. And again, oops, sorry, it's not showing. Here we go, -11. Again, we can drop the parentheses because there's nothing in front of the 11, or the negative sign, or the parentheses. There's the -11 is the first number here. So we're gonna do this, and when we do that calculation, we get 358, and that is our answer. Okay. So let's actually skip over to number 4. Now, on these notes, it's a 2-page thing where you actually have the correct answers for all of these problems. So if you want to practice more of these, feel free to do so. If you can't figure out the correct answer, just email me and I will work it through with you. But I'm going to look at number 4 here. Skip to number 4. Okay, so number 4. Is 2 minus 4 times a bracket 3 minus braces 3 squared plus 4 braces closed and a bracket closed. Again, we're doing the innermost grouping symbols, whichever ones those are. And in this case, it looks like it's the braces here. And inside the braces, we have a exponent, and then we have an addition. So, of course, we're doing the exponent first. But before we do any of that, we're going to rewrite this whole thing just like it's been. So 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Again, use a calculator if you're not sure. And that is a brace. Okay, and then we're going to do this addition here. But we're still keeping everything else the same, not changing a thing here. So 9 plus 4 is 13, and now we can write the 13 without the braces because we did that calculation. Next, we have the brackets that we need to get rid of. So we're going to do this 3 minus 13. So we have 2 minus 4 times 3 minus 13 is negative 10. So that means that since we have a negative sign in front of it, we need to put it inside the parentheses. And here we have a subtraction and a multiplication. We're going to do the multiplication first. So 2 minus, or actually, if we look at these two, we have a negative 4 and a negative 10. We are multiplying negative 4 times negative 10. We have two negatives, which become a positive. So this is actually going to be a positive 40. And then we do our addition, and that is 42. There we go. So again, like I said, I'm going to leave it at this. And if you need any help with the rest, you do have the correct answers for all of them. Just let me know, and I'll be happy to help with it. But yeah, there's plenty of them, and there's a whole bunch of them on my math lab as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Bye.